The story of Didier Drogba, the warrior who stopped a war. Introduction. The hook. There are players who define eras. There are players who define continents. And then, very rarely, there are players who define the history of their own country in a way that no goal and no trophy could ever fully explain. The year was 2005. Ivory Coast had just qualified for the World Cup for the first time in its history. The locker room was celebrating. Players were crying with joy. But then, one of them took a microphone in front of the TV cameras, dropped to his knees, and spoke words that paralyzed an entire nation. "We beg you on our knees to lay down your arms." The man who spoke was Didier Drogba, and what he did far exceeded anything he had ever done on a football pitch. Although on a football pitch, I assure you, he also did incredible things. This is the story of the greatest man African football has ever produced. Chapter 1. The Child of Displacement. Didier Yves Drogba Tebele was born on March 11, 1978, in Abidjan, the economic capital of Ivory Coast. His father worked in a bank, and his mother took care of the home. A humble family in a popular neighborhood, with 5 children and few certainties about the future. When Didier was only 5 years old, his uncle Michel Goba, a professional footballer who had signed for a club in France, offered to take him to give him a better education. His parents accepted, and so, at just 5 years old, Drogba left his parents, his siblings, and his city to fly to an unknown country. What followed was a childhood of constant displacement. Brest, Angoulême, Dunkerque. Every 2 or 3 years, a new city, a new school, new classmates. This life of perpetual adaptation and loneliness in a foreign land forged a survivor's mentality in Drogba. A capacity to endure adversity that would later become his trademark on the pitch. Chapter 2. A start without flashes. If you expect me to tell you that Drogba was a child prodigy who dazzled from infancy, I will have to disappoint you. He wasn't. He was a boy with talent and a strong physique, but he wasn't one of those cases everyone recognizes from the start. He made his professional debut at 21 with Le Mans, a French second-division club. He then moved through Guignon and Levallois, years in the shadows, without headlines, without anyone betting big on him. It was at Olympique de Marseille, in 2003, when something clicked. At 24, as if all those years of patience had matured at once, he scored 19 goals in the French league and became the most clinical player in the championship. European football took notice. The fastest to act was José Mourinho, recently arrived at Chelsea with the unlimited backing of Roman Abramovich. Chelsea paid £24 million. Summer of 2004. Didier Drogba had reached the elite. Chapter 3. The King of Stamford Bridge. Between 2006 and 2012, Drogba became the best striker in the Premier League. Without question, he was the league's top scorer twice, winning the Golden Boot. 157 goals in 341 games for Chelsea. But the numbers don't tell the whole story. What made Drogba different was his performance when the stakes were highest. He scored in 4 FA Cup finals, 4 matches, 4 goals. It's a record that will likely never be equaled. He was a big game player, a man who rose when others shrank. And then came Munich. Chapter 4. Munich, the impossible night. May 19, 2012, the Allianz Arena, the Champions League final between Bayern Munich and Chelsea. The match was played at Bayern's home, in front of their fans. Chelsea arrived as underdogs, and Drogba was playing through physical pain. In the 83rd minute, Müller scored for Bayern. It seemed over, but then, in the 88th minute, 2 minutes from elimination, Juan Mata took a corner. The ball flew toward the penalty spot, and there, as always, Drogba appeared to thunder a header into the back of the net. Equalizer. 2 minutes from the end. The Allianz Arena fell silent. It went to penalties. Petr Cech saved Olich's shot. Schweinsteiger hit the post. And then, the final penalty. The one that would give the Champions League to Chelsea. Drogba walked to the spot with the composure of a king. He placed the ball. He breathed. He ran. He struck. Goal. Chelsea, champions of Europe for the first time in their history. Drogba fell to his knees on the grass and wept. And in Abidjan, millions of people wept with him. Chapter 5. The man WHO stopped AWAR. But let's go back, because Drogba's most important story didn't happen in a stadium. In the early 2000s, Ivory Coast was torn apart from within. A devastating civil war pitted the Muslim North against the Christian South. Thousands dead, a country split in two, a tragedy with no end in sight. In October 2005, Ivory Coast qualified for its first World Cup by winning in Sudan. When the referee blew the final whistle, someone handed a microphone to Drogba. What happened next was spontaneous, straight from the heart. Drogba asked his teammates to kneel, and he addressed the people of his country with these words: "Ivorians, men and women of the North and the South, the Center and the West, we prove today that all Ivorians can coexist and play together with the same objective. We beg you, on our knees, lay down your arms and organize elections." The video was broadcast all over Ivory Coast, and the incredible thing, the truly incredible thing, is that it worked. Weeks later, representatives from both sides sat down to negotiate. Many Ivorian leaders acknowledged that the impact of that speech was decisive in unblocking the peace process. A footballer had achieved what politicians could not. Chapter 6, The Return and the Farewell. In the summer of 2012, after Munich, Drogba left Chelsea at 34. He spent time in China and at Galatasaray, where in the Champions League, he scored against his former team and received an ovation rarely heard in football. In 2014, Mourinho called him back. Drogba was 36. Many saw it as a sentimental decision. They were wrong. In his second stint, he became a Premier League champion again in 2015. At 37 years old, he contributed crucial goals in a squad full of young stars. In the most demanding league in the world, at 37, he was a champion once more. In his last match at Stamford Bridge, the stadium stood and cheered for minutes. Drogba waved to all four corners with tears in his eyes. It was the farewell of a king. Chapter 7, Beyond Football. Drogba's story doesn't end in the stadiums. Since becoming his country's most famous star, he has used his name and money to change real lives. In 2007, he founded the Didier Drogba Foundation and built a hospital in Abidjan, donating $3 million from his own pocket, half of what he earned from his endorsement deals. He also built a school, collaborated on clean water programs in rural areas, and participated in campaigns against AIDS. The UN named him a Goodwill Ambassador, a title that was not ceremonial, but real. When asked why he spent so much money on humanitarian projects, he answered with disarming simplicity, "Because I came from that reality. Because I know what it's like to grow up without the basics. If I have the privilege of success, the least I can do is give back some of what I received." Those aren't marketing words. They are the words of someone who never forgot where he came from. Epilogue: What Drogba taught us. 164 goals for Chelsea. Club legend. 65 goals for Ivory Coast. 4 Premier Leagues. 4 FA Cups. 1 Champions League. A hospital. A school. A war halted. That is Didier Drogba's legacy. But beyond the numbers, what remains is the certainty that football, when in the right hands, can be more than just a game. It can be a tool for change, for hope, for reconciliation. Drogba taught us that success doesn't always arrive quickly, that some people need more time to mature, and that doesn't make them any less great. He taught us that big moments are won before they arrive, in all the years of invisible hard work that nobody sees. And he taught us, perhaps above all, that a man kneeling in a locker room with a heart full of emotion can change the destiny of an entire country. Didier Drogba wasn't just the best striker of his generation in Africa. He wasn't just the king of Stamford Bridge. He wasn't just the hero of Munich. He was the man who proved that football can change the world. And that, friends, is never forgotten. Video outro: If this story touched you as much as it did me, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Every week we bring stories like this, stories of those who made this sport we love so great. Until the next football memoir.